Also on the Hill today, the fight to fund DHS is erupting once again. Saturday's attack at the White House Correspondents' Dinner reignited calls to pass the stalled bill. It's all the more urgent because funding from Trump's executive order, which is paying the salaries of many DHS workers right now, could soon run out. The White House is now calling it a national emergency and putting the blame on Democrats. But it's actually Republicans who are divided because the Senate-passed bill does not include money for ICE and Border Patrol.
It has some problematic language because it was haphazardly drafted, and so we've stated our objections about that very clearly.
So you will never put that on the floor?
We have a modified version that I think is going to be much better for both chambers.
I think we did everything we can to ensure that everything was appropriately funded.
Senator, the shooting on Saturday, how do you think that impacts the Homeland Security funding debate and the reconciliation debate for Congress?
I think it intensifies the need to take action to ensure that law enforcement is funded.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman of Pennsylvania, Brendan Boyle. He is ranking member of the House Budget Committee. It's good to see you, Congressman. Do you have any real sense yet of what Speaker Johnson's modified version of a DHS funding bill looks like?
No, I don't. That's actually news to me. You know, 25 days ago, the Senate unanimously passed, and think about that, unanimously, from the most conservative Republican to the most progressive Democrat and everywhere in between, they passed a bill that fully funds DHS with the exception of the two controversial agencies, ICE and CBP. Mike Johnson publicly committed to bringing it up for a vote, and the president endorsed it. And yet here we are 3.5 weeks later, and that hasn't happened, and DHS is still not funded. So it is bizarre to me because if Mike Johnson were to put such a bill on the floor that the Senate passed, it would pass the House with both Democratic and Republican support and pass by overwhelming margins. So I really don't know what the Speaker is doing, and people I talk to on both sides can't understand the strategy here at all.
Feels like we've been talking forever, like the clock is ticking. So here we are again. DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin says they'll run out of money for paychecks the first week of May. And now, add to that, DHS says more than 1,100 TSA officers have left the agency during this shutdown. I know you followed that story. Most of them said, listen, you know, we need a job that is dependable, and they were sick of working and not being paid. Could this be a pressure point that actually works toward finding a solution? What do you think?
Well, I hope so. I mean, even as you were recounting that, I thought, here we go again. Mauricio Guibarra once said it's deja vu all over again. Obviously, the quickest way to resolve this is simply for Mike Johnson to allow the House to vote on the bill that passed the Senate unanimously. We'd be able to get this done and to the president's desk literally within 24 hours. I just can't understand why he won't do it.
As Congress grapples with how to fund DHS, some of your Republican colleagues are now pitching legislation to provide $400 million to build Trump's White House ballroom. Trump had said it wouldn't cost anything. He has not signed on to that proposal. What do you make of that idea that there should be a bill saying, here's $400 million, build your ballroom?
Well, first, it's fairly obscene after the horrific attempted shooting of this weekend to then grab on to security as the underlying justification for building a White House ballroom. Keep in mind, when the president announced his ballroom project, at no point ever in any of his statements did he cite security as the reason why he was doing this. We all know it's a big vanity project. The same way he's building an entire arch across Arlington Bridge right in front of Arlington National Cemetery. The same way he illegally etched his own name on to the Kennedy Center, the living memorial to our last assassinated president, great John F. Kennedy. That's all this is. One final point on this. Let's suppose the Republicans succeeded and did include $400 million for Trump's big, beautiful ballroom. What exactly would that mean? Because corporations have already privately financed this and donated $400 million. So would that mean U.S. taxpayers are turning around and sending checks to some of the wealthiest and most successful entities in America? Truly, truly obscene.
Lindsey Graham suggests it should not be used, those donations should be used for things like China.
I'm sorry. It's hard to take that seriously. I mean, Lindsey Graham also said yesterday that 90% of the American people want the ballroom. I don't think he's very good at reading poll numbers. I can tell you 90% of the American people want lower costs. 90% of the American people want gas prices back below $3 a gallon, where they were before Trump's ridiculous war in Iran. People want cheaper health care, lower food prices, et cetera. They certainly don't want hundreds of millions of dollars of their taxpayer money going to an unnecessary vanity project in a ballroom.
Congressman Brendan Boyle, appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you.